So let's try a quick experiment. I'm going to give you two words, and I want you to take a few seconds and think about what comes to mind when I say those two words. Are you ready? Here we go. Law enforcement. Now think about it for a second. What's the first few things that come to mind when I say the words law enforcement? Did you think of a police car? Maybe you thought of the police officer himself. Maybe you thought about his uniform. Maybe you thought about the jail cell or even the courtroom. So when I said law enforcement, what I was talking about there is called an umbrella term. Basically, it's a term that's going to have many different meanings directly underneath it. And in today's video, we're going to look at the top two umbrella terms that are used in the scuba industry and how you can differentiate between their context when you're talking with other divers. So with that being said, let's dive in and learn about umbrella terms in the scuba industry. What's up, guys? It's Brian again from Lake Hickory Scuba and Marine. If you are new to our channel, do me a huge favor. Hit this little subscribe button over here and ding that little bell as well. That way you guys are going to be notified every time we upload new content. Now, as I stated in the teaser, we are going to be talking about umbrella terms in the scuba industry. And there's two very specific umbrella terms that we're going to be looking at because a lot of people get these confused. They get them confused when they take certain classes and they might miss a question on the test, or they'll get them confused and take them out of context when they're having a conversation with another diver. So when I say umbrella terms, what do I actually mean? Well, here behind me you'll notice there's an umbrella, and typically whatever that term's going to be is going to be the top of that umbrella, and I will use the one that we did in the teaser when I said law enforcement. So I'm going to write that out. Alright? So when I say law enforcement, there are many different things that can come out of there. It can be police officer, it could be police car, it could be police station, and so forth and so on. And as you can see, there's many different terms that can fall under the word law enforcement. It could be the individual agencies, whether it's a local sheriff's department, a police department, maybe it's a state police bureau, maybe it's even a federal bureau of investigation or some type of federal agency. But there's many different terms that can fall under that umbrella terminology, if you will. And the scuba industry is absolutely no different. If I just simply said the word scuba diver, what would be the very first thing to come to mind? Maybe a recreational diver, a technical diver, maybe somebody who just goes underwater, maybe they're a rebreather diver, an open circuit diver, maybe they're a public safety diver, a cave diver, an ice diver. I could go on and on and on. So in itself, scuba diver is an umbrella term in general because it actually needs a little bit more explanation for us to understand what a scuba diver actually is. Now, someone could say, yeah, it's just somebody who breathes compressed gas underwater and that makes them a scuba diver. Well, could be, but they may not be properly trained for it. So there's many different meanings when we use umbrella terms. So now let's take a look at the two most common umbrella terms and how people sometimes get them confused with other things based off the context of the conversation they're having. So the first umbrella term that we're going to look at is decompression illness. And decompression illness, a lot of times, is mistaken for decompression sickness. All right? And first and foremost, decompression sickness is a part of decompression illness. But decompression illness is going to have several other conditions. So we can have decompression sickness, we can have nitrogen narcosis, we can have any type of air embolism or barotrauma that can happen because we have compressed gas in our system. So decompression illness is going to be all these added together, not just decompression sickness. And you will see this a lot of time on your test. If you're taking, say, a science-related test for scuba or a professional level course, you're going to see a question on there that's going to ask specifically for decompression illness, and it'll usually give you several options of what's included in this, and everybody always goes to decompression sickness, but when they see it on the test, they usually miss that question because it's usually an all of the above answer. Because remember, decompression sickness illness is the umbrella term that's going to include all the different maladies that can happen. And once again, that can be a barotrauma or some type of pressure-related injury. It can be decompression sickness. It can even simply be nitrogen narcosis. So make sure that when you're taking tests or you're having a conversation, you need to understand whether that person's talking about an umbrella term or an individual part of that umbrella term as well. So the second most common umbrella term that's used in the scuba industry is SAC rate, or surface air consumption rate. And as we talked about in our previous video, there is a difference between your SAC rate measured in, say, PSI or bar, and of course it measured in cubic footage, which we relate that to as respiratory minute volume, or RMV rate. So under the SAC rate heading, you're going to have SAC rate, which is measured in bar or PSI, and then you're going to have RMV rate, which is measured in your cubic footage. Now, once again, as we stated in the last video, it's very important that you can calculate both. Now, typically for planning dives, you're going to focus more on the RMV. For the PSI or bar calculation, this is what we're going to calculate directly underwater throughout the dive itself. So it's very important that we understand what we're talking about there. However, this can cause problems when you're taking an exam of some type. If it asks for a SAC rate of a diver and none of your answers are in PSI, they're always going to be in cubic footage. You need to make sure that you can calculate that as well. But this is a common one that we see all the time with students and just divers in general. And even here on YouTube, we get this question asked a lot. Why is it asked in this form when it's really asking for this? Because it depends on the context of what you're actually talking about or what you're trying to calculate. If I'm trying to calculate simply what size cylinder I need, I'm going to calculate my SAC and RMV. If I'm going to calculate how long a cylinder will last when I'm underwater, of course, it's going to be calculated SAC rate through pressure or bar. So that gives you a better understanding of the umbrella term SAC rate. It does include measured both in pressure and bar, and it also measures it in cubic footage. All right, guys, before we close out this video, there's one more that I do want to mention really quick, and that is exposure suits. And this is one that we're taught from our open water program that we don't really think much about being an umbrella term. But, you know, exposure suits is a great umbrella term that we use all the time. It can encompass wetsuits, it can encompass dry suits, a dive skin, it can be your hoods, your gloves, your boots. It's anything that truly protects you from the environment when you're underwater. But guys, that's going to do it for umbrella terms. Let me know down below, did this make sense to you? And is there an umbrella term that you use with your dive buddies all the time? And does it ever get mistaken or taken out of context when you're having a conversation with someone? Because I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. Definitely share it. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down below and I'll try to get to you as quickly as I can. But until our next video, take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.